You can waste years trying to figure leadership out on your own, years falling behind, years not knowing why you aren't getting the results you expect. Nowadays, there's more leadership content than ever, and most firefighters and officers are drowning in it and still not making progress. That's why we created the Fireground Company membership. This membership isn't for everyone. It's for firefighters and officers who refuse to be average. Once you join, you gain access to the Insider Podcast, Leadership Q&A, where we answer the questions you submit to us, discussion feeds, private resources, exclusive discounts, and more. Right now, we have a founding member discount for the first 50 members to join. Visit firegroundcompany.com before this offer is gone.
On today's episode of the Fireground Company podcast, we break down the difference between company fires and command fires and how recognizing the difference sets the tone for success.
The Fireground Company podcast.
Let's just go.
All right.
And see how it goes. So, I was thinking about how to introduce this one, and
Just say the title.
yeah, well, no, because there's this whole idea of simplifying things, and people love to say there's only two types of people in this world, and of course, everything is more nuanced than those kind of statements, but they're kind of fun, right? They put a frame on things. There's two types of people in the world. There's only two types of, and so. I guess let me lead with saying, I'm not saying there's only two types of fires that you can put a framework around, but let me say this. We sort of started discussing this concept a while ago, and it really works a lot. And if nothing else, I think it's a useful framework, and if you're listening, you'll understand what we're talking about in just a second, but it's a useful framework both for officers and for command. So we're bringing a little bit of that command and company officer dynamic into this one. And when we first started talking about this concept, it's not like groundbreaking or anything like that, but I think it really, we started filtering a lot of the fires we had been through.
It's a fork in the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. But we've been to both of these fires that we're going to discuss over and over and over again, and we can see how this sort of framework, this foundation of thinking about them in a certain way, would have been really useful. And as we say, looking back, there's a lot of things that we would have done differently, or we would have hoped that command would have done differently in order to make the overall event go smoother. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I would
right.
say it's as though you have two baskets is kind of the way I look at it. But the baskets, it's not like I just have Easter eggs in this basket and I got, apples in this basket. You have two baskets and you have some, Easter eggs. Maybe I have more in this basket and I have more. What am I talking about? I don't even know.
As soon as you started going down that analogy,
it's close to Easter. I don't know. It's like you have kind of two groups of things. You have a bunch of different things in them. I don't know. It's Easter. I like Easter eggs.
There was another episode where you started talking about like a girlfriend, a bad girl, a toxic girlfriend, and it was like, I don't know. I'm talking. Anyways, back to
It's true though. Toxic girlfriend one works all the time.
Yeah,
it's like everyone sees in the firehouse. You have the toxic girl. The guy has a toxic girlfriend. Everyone knows it, and then you're just, dude, can't you see that? And then something happens, like I said, and then they're just, it's like, well, no, dude, you should have saw it.
All right, so is a common scenario everybody's familiar with. You have a basket of Easter eggs and a basket of apples in front of you. Okay, so we'll start with that. Everybody knows exactly what you're talking about, I think. So,
am I hungry? I don't know.
All right, so the two baskets of which we're referring, we'll get a little more concrete here. We're talking about company fire or command fire. Mm-hmm. Those are our baskets: company fires and command fires.
Yes.
And so let's start with the company fire. What's a company fire?
Company fire. Company fire is bread and butter fires. What I'm going to say is, I think it's more straightforward. It's the fires that most of the time we run, right? It's a fire in a bedroom of a garden apartment or a single family house, or maybe it's I don't know, for us, a high rise fire. It's nah, not really. No, I'm going to actually put that in the other basket of eggs. Yeah, it's more, there's less complexity to it. It's one at the company level. I guess the chief is, they're in command, but it's won or lost by the company, right? Because there's not a lot of other working pieces.
That's what I'm thinking, and I'm going to just say it right now while it's in my mind, is that a company fire is a fire where the actions at the company level make the biggest difference to the outcome. Whereas you have a command fire, which is the coordination of multiple companies through command, is what ultimately makes the biggest difference on the outcome of the event.
Yeah, because it's the company officers, it's their decision making, it's the firefighters, their decision making at a company fire have the biggest impact, because it's not too far beyond what they can handle without much assistance, I guess, is kind of the way I think about it too. So, I mean, the BC still needs to be a part of it, and they can still help. What I've noticed throughout the years is the BC with these fires can help a lot if we get off course, right? So yeah, maybe we should solve at the company level. It's pretty straightforward. We get our water supply, we pull the line, go to the seat of fire, put it out, or the truck company, they do the search and everything else. But when things get a little out of whack, maybe there's a floor labeling issue, or maybe there's one company has some problem, something that gets in the way or whatever. That's kind of the point where the chiefs can step in, and I feel like they can really help us a lot, is coordinate that problem. Because now it's not just it's a little beyond the standard operating procedures. If you have a set standard operating procedures for these fires, I don't need a lot from the chief, right? We don't need a lot of talking and back and forth. We just need a little guidance here and there. It's when things are kind of go off track a little, and it's that area where we were supposed to do this, but we had this problem and we need some support. So, I mean, I think that's the back and forth, I guess, me as a company officer, I'm looking for from the chief to help me out in those moments. Because the other side to that is, and I'm not a chief, I know it's a hard position too. There's a lot of stuff going on, but sometimes, man, they're just overwhelming you with questions. And I get it, I'll talk to them, and, some of them obviously are my friends and everything else. And I understand, you're not seeing it necessarily. You're not there. So you got to really pull information out. But sometimes it's just over the top where it's like, dude, give me a second to work. Yeah. I need to figure a few things out. I'm talking to maybe a resident out front, or I'm dealing with a, firefighter that's trying to, they're trying to do something, and maybe they're a little weak at this skill. So I got to guide them a little. So yeah, I don't know, because they can overwhelm you and micromanage it. And you're like,
you can't talk the fire out.
Yeah, right? Dude, it's a bedroom fire, or maybe it's like 2 rooms off or something like that. Or it's a bedroom fire. It's a little bit in the attic, but it's under control. That's starting to get outside the box a little, where we need a little more help, a little coordination. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Most of the coordination, I think, is almost face to face between the companies, not so much funneled through command, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's much more complicated is when you start getting into the command fire, right? And
that's, I think, actually the command fire is kind of
the heart of this.
It's what made us realize this, because we've been to a few big, large scale events where command really became important to coordinating tasks, and there's a lot going on. I don't know if I want to mention specific fires, but we had a large warehouse fire, which one I'm talking about. And then the big fire, which, was, I guess
2 blocks.
Yeah. I mean, maybe more. I mean, it felt like, and you think I'm exaggerating, but it felt like a neighborhood on fire.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of companies doing different things, and you really sensed the need for command, right? And that's what kind of got us thinking about this. Was there's command fires, which are these large scale or large building events, or even just things that, like you alluded to, where there's something off. There's something that the guys on the inside aren't getting because they can't see the vent in its totality.
Yeah, I mean, I think of this the smaller the company fires, and it's weird. The incident command, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it feels sometimes suffocating, man. Depending on who the chief is. I mean, I'm not, this isn't aimed at anyone in particular, but sometimes you'll get a chief and they're just suffocating with their incident command, and you're just, dude, we're trying to work through this. I'm trying to, do this, that, and then you get to these, command level fires, I guess is what we're calling them, and there's a lot less incident command. And you start to think, you're like, well, the incident command system was developed for more so these big fires, right? These big fires are the ones where you really need the incident command, where it really makes sense. And then I've noticed over the years, those are the ones where incident command almost completely falls apart. It's so non-existent. There's an irony to this, right? You go to these big fires and, well, what does it become? It becomes individual company fires. No one's tracking you. If they are, they're barely tracking you, and you're making decisions as a company to do the best thing you possibly can in the situation. You think back and you're like, if it was a single family house, everything's coordinated and controlled by command, sometimes over the top, sometimes just right. And then these big ones, there's nothing sometimes, and you're by yourself, and now it's a company fire, but it's a 10 company fire of individual companies. Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's definitely how they feel.
The most shocking thing, we ran this, it was a mutual aid, the fire you're talking about, like a big fire, and it just blew my mind. There were some statements where, you're basically on your own or something like that, where it's just like, we're not tracking anyone. And you're like, okay, well, isn't this the fire you would track everyone? You have like 3 alarms, 4 alarms, whatever it was, a ton. And then I go towards the end, after we've been there for hours, to pick up our accountability tags from the command post. And I'm like, hey, picking our tags up. And the guy's like, I don't know where they are, man. We just took them all and threw them in a pile back there. I was like, what? This is the whole point of this whole system, right? You have these nice little boards. You have these Velcro boards. You have this, that. That was the whole point, right? I guess, it's not. I don't know. And I know I'm not a chief. I know these are probably overwhelming to a degree, but I think just talking about them in the sense that that's where you actually need more structure for the command system to work right, is these big fires, because everyone, like I said, starts operating independently, trying to do the best they can, but there's no coordinated plan, or maybe there's portions of coordinated plans. But I mean, it's a lot of them, one we ran the other night where it went to multiple alarms, and I know you're back dealing with the water supply stuff and the snow and ice and all that. And I walked up there, and if I didn't say anything, I think we were on the second alarm. If I didn't say anything, I don't think they would have known we existed. Like they just lost track of us. And I get it. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's interesting to think about that you have these incident command systems, and they just break down when we need them most. Again, like to give you examples, commercial buildings can be, I would say, tend to lean towards a command fire because they're a bigger building. A lot of times they can be attached.
Yeah,
strip malls.
You get companies just spread out more.
Yeah.
Companies operating much further away from each other. You got a single family home, and all the units on that first alarm are on top of each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes literally, and then but these bigger buildings, they're operating more remotely, and so you can't do that face to face. Like, hey, I'm going in here, or whatever. So that's where that command needs to step in and make that coordination happen.
Yeah, I mean, high rise, mid rise, I I started to say it was like, oh, it's a company fire. And it can be if everything goes smoothly, but a lot of times there's always going to be extra work. There's going to be, if you have sprinklers in the building, you got to have someone dealing with that. You got to reset an alarm system. You got elevator issues. You got smoke migration. So more often than not, it's more of a command fire where you're dealing with all that. And you need to coordinate all the companies, the large footprint buildings, anything like that. If it's just a big building, you're going to need to coordinate that through command or complexity. Again, thinking about stuff recently is we went to a call with an odor of smoke at a juvenile detention center. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just really outside of the box. I mean, you go in there and there's doors locking behind you. You're not sure the closest route. I mean, I got turned around. I was trying to maintain my awareness, but we went through so many different locked doors and turns. At a certain point, I was like, dude, I'm not sure what side I'm facing. I think I know, but I can't say that for 100%. So yeah, I mean, those are the kind of fires or investigations or situations where I really need, as a company officer, I need help from command to coordinate everything, I guess. And I mean, because in our region, a lot of times the first in officer, there's a lot on you. You're almost acting like a battalion chief for a little bit. And depending on the chief showing up and their attitude and how they deal with things, they almost may let you roll with it as almost being like an unofficial BC where you're trying to make all these decisions and coordinate stuff. And you're like, dude, I'm maxed out, One thing I realized is from standing back at like a command post at a bigger fire where you're just waiting for an assignment or something and you're detached, it's a Jocko word he likes to use a lot. You get to think through stuff and see things because in that moment you don't have really responsibility, right? You don't have anything to worry about. You're just kind of watching it almost as a spectator with a front row seat. And I noticed in those, it seems like if the Chiefs can get a little ahead and think a few steps ahead and start planning out the resources that they're going to need, like what companies they're going to have deal with this, or how are they going to group things that make sense, either like responsibilities as far as ventilation or geographically areas that can really it looks like it makes the operation flow better. Because I noticed the chiefs that do that, it just makes everything flow better when they start grouping these actions. And it's not just, random companies. It's, hey, truck company, so-and-so, you operate with engine company, so-and-so in this area, look for extension. It's like, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. From standing back and that detachment, I noticed that. I guess it's when you think about it, how do we work together, right? So what can we do at the company level to help the BCs, and what can the BCs do to help us, right? So I think one thing I realized by talking to them is being solid with the information that we give them and make sure they can trust us. So if we're not getting good information, we're saying things that necessarily aren't true because we're guessing, the battalion chiefs are going to have a hard time trusting us. And I think that's where, from talking to, some of them, that's their concern, where they've been burned by company officers, where they said certain things and then after the fact they find out like, well, that wasn't the case. So I think us as company officers or firefighters at that level, if we're, operating remote, that kind of stuff, where if we're going to give a roof report, make sure it's a good one. Make sure we're not making stuff up. We know, we don't know, or, we're still investigating. We'll get back to you, Chief. So give good information and do what you're supposed to do. If we're doing what we're supposed to do, we're hitting our assignments. We're taking care of our water supply. Because we see that sometimes where these water supplies are, not taken care of. Like, I have my own water. They really don't. They don't have their own water, or they're not in a good spot to provide water, and they should have asked for help from another engine company, or another engine company is supposed to pick up the line, but they don't. So if we do what we're supposed to do and are dependable in the information that we give the chief, I think it's going to make them trust us more and probably minimize, hopefully, some of that unnecessary back and forth asking. I mean, and I guess thinking about it from the other side, as far as the, I guess what we, as at the firefighter and company level, what we're looking for in the chief, and from these bigger fires, if we're doing that, if we're giving good information and everything else, it's, hey, you may need to point us in the right direction because we don't have all the information. You're getting information from other people. You're seeing things on the outside that we can't see. We may be focused, like I said, on talking to people inside, guiding another firefighter. So we may need some help redirecting us, or the complexity of the building. There's just things we haven't thought about, because we're under the gun trying to deal with this, deal with that, trying to recon, figure out what's going on. The chief can sit back a little and hopefully a little clearer headed than we are, and ask those questions where, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I got you, chief. We'll check on that. I'm not sure. Or again, if we're not in a position to do it, tell them we're not in a position to do it. Don't lie and say, or guess, I guess is really what I'm saying. Yeah, I can do that. And it's like, I'm not in the right position. I'm 2 floors away. Someone else is going to have to take care of that.
I think we discussed this on one of the Insider podcast episodes about micromanaging and things like that. But it's, this is relevant here too, is a little conversation ahead of time can head off a little thing. So even on the simple ones, I mean, most departments have the standard operating procedures that we all go by. But, if you have a conversation between chief and company officer, and the chief says, look, on these bread and butter fires, single family homes, this is what I need from you. And then you can rise to that. And then maybe that puts the ball back in your court a little bit more, and you can, have a little more freedom to operate and focus on the tasks and the operations, knowing better what your chief is expecting of you.
Yeah.
All right. So that's company fires, command fires.
Yeah. Don't forget, check out our Fireground company membership. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have anything like that. So help us out. You can support us behind the scenes here. There's, some expenses we got to take care of. We really want to keep doing this for you. That helps us a lot. Plus, there's a lot of cool stuff in it that's going to help you. Q&A, direct access, where you get to ask us your questions. So check that out at firegroundcompany.com. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for listening.
Check us out at firegroundcompany.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and our YouTube channel, and you'll stay up to date on everything we're working on. We also have a store on our website where you can support us as we grow this community, plus working on some great courses to help you strengthen your leadership in the fire department and support its traditions and culture. Last but not least, subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, leave a comment, spread the word, get this out to the firefighters who are hungry to make the job even better.
The Fireground Company Podcast.